So that was President Trump's big address to the nation, to the United States of America, to the people there, because he's now outlined what he says and believes that why Operation Epic Fury was necessary. As President Trump effectively has also distanced the responsibility of the United States of America over securing the very contentious Strait of Hormuz. And this despite making multiple appeals and also being snubbed by the allies of the United States of America when it comes to the world's most critical oil routes. President Trump has asserted that U.S. no longer depends on the Strait of Hormuz for oil imports. In fact, they have a lot of oil and they want the world to actually purchase oil from the United States of America. Now, in a clear shift, he says that the countries dependent on the route must take action by themselves.
Because of the Trump administration's policies, we produce more oil and gas than Saudi Arabia and Russia combined. Think of that, Saudi Arabia and Russia combined. And that number will soon be substantially higher than that. There's no country like us anywhere in the world, and we're in great shape for the future. The United States imports almost no oil through the Hormuz Strait, and won't be taking any in the future. We don't need it. We haven't needed it, and we don't need it. We've beaten and completely decimated Iran. They are decimated, both militarily and economically and in every other way. And the countries of the world that do receive oil through the Hormuz Strait must take care of that passage. They must cherish it. They must grab it and cherish it. They can do it easily. We will be helpful, but they should take the lead in protecting the oil that they so desperately depend on.
Let's introduce Srinjoy, who continues to be with us. Colonel Utkarsh Rathod is in our studios there. Sierra Claire is also joining us, foreign policy expert. We also have Pathikrit Prayan connected with us as a geopolitical analyst. Good morning to all of you. Thank you very much for taking out your time. Srinjoy, the key takeaways and the highlights do you believe that President Trump this time has given in his address to the nation, to the United States of America?
Well, to get to the Strait of Hormuz first, yes, he's right. The Americans do not need oil from the Strait of Hormuz. But even before the war, the Strait of Hormuz was open, and all oil supplies to all the countries that needed oil from the Strait, through the Strait of Hormuz, whether it was India or China or Japan or South Korea or Western Europe, they got the oil whenever it was necessary. And even now, the Iranians have said, look here, our friends will get the oil, whether it's China, whether it's Russia, whether it's India. And we've also heard that the Japanese have cut a deal with the Iranians, so their ships can also go through the Strait of Hormuz. So as a result, this entire thing is because of the war. If there hadn't been a war, then Iran would not have closed the Strait of Hormuz. And if the Strait of Hormuz would not have been closed, there was no need for other countries that get oil through the Strait of Hormuz to, quote, cherish, unquote, it. So this cherish issue is really because of the war. That's something the president should be thinking about. If there hadn't been a war, there would be no need to cherish it.
Well, because he believes that he's doing a good thing as far as bringing world peace, and for that he very well deserves a Nobel Peace Prize. But Sierra, what are the points that you would want to range, when it comes to the beginning of Operation Epic Fury, to what President Trump has said back then, to today's statement? There are stark differences.
Well, I mean, I think it was clear in his speech. He said the objectives have remained clear throughout the operation, and I do believe that that's true. Other things have shifted. The fact that NATO, it seems to be uninterested in defending their own oil. It's not our oil. That changes things. And of course, we're partnering with Israel. We are also working with our Gulf partners, and the fact of how they've stepped up, I think, has actually changed things in the operation in the sense that it's accelerated. We've been able to achieve our goals. As President Trump said, the Iranian military being decimated in only a matter of weeks. So there may have been some things that changed, but in terms of the actual objectives of the operation, I don't think those ever changed.
No, but Patikrit, wasn't nuclear disarmament one of the objectives where President Trump had mentioned that had been completely obliterated when it comes to the facilities when the June conflict happened last year? And didn't he appeal to the people of Iran to rise up against the Iranian regime themselves? Wasn't the regime change one of the objectives?
So only 2 days back, we heard President Trump warning Iran about the Strait of Hormuz. What happened to that? That means there has been a climb down. And one of the reasons for the climb down is primarily because in every war that US got involved in the last few decades, it has been backed by NATO. This time there is no NATO, no country is willing to get involved in this. Now, number two, yes, you're right. Last year they said they've obliterated all the nuclear facilities in Fordo, Isfahan. What happened to that? Number three, the regime is not gone. Some leaders are gone. Today, IRGC is actually controlling the regime. Number four, what was the end objective of United States? Is it regime change? Is it about destruction of the nuclear weapons? Or is it something completely expecting people to take over the streets and create anarchy and throw away the government, which did not happen? When it comes to the Strait of Hormuz, the Strait of Hormuz remains open for us. It is the Americans who threatened that if there is no deal, they would be putting their Marines into the Kharg Island. Is it still on or is it off? That's number four. Number five, the missiles keep on hitting. Are they going to exit the war even when the Arab states are at the receiving end of the drone attacks and the missile attacks? It is true. There is no comparison between the American capacity and the Iranians. The Iranians have got decimated in many ways, but they still have the capacity. The capacity may have got limited now, but still they have the capacity to have the drone attacks and the missile attacks. If America leaves in midway, does it mean that they are asking the Arab states to fend for themselves? And number five, who takes the responsibility of the mess in the entire energy market of the world? Because first, the Russia-Ukraine conflict. Number two, the Venezuela crisis. Number three, the Middle East crisis. The price of oil keeps on going up, and then the Americans will lecture the world about climate change, that you should not have more thermal power, you should not have this, you should not have that. I think somewhere this, double standards must stop. What has been accomplished by this war is what the Americans should tell to the rest of the world. Is the regime gone? Answer is no. Are missile threats going down? Well, to a certain extent, but not entirely. Has Middle East become a more peaceful place? Well, there are question marks. I think the Israelis and the Americans have very different objective for the war. Correct. And that's where the problem happened. And last but not the least, there is pressure within America on the government to do something, because now the Iranian regime
that came from the Iranian President Pezeshkian as well, because he's written a letter there addressing the people of United States of America. If they agree with the war that, they voted for this government to carry out this war against the Middle East, against Iran, and if they are happy with this. But in the meantime, let's talk about when it comes to the oil prices that have significantly gone up and the markets that mainly run on sentiment and statements. This is going to have a long-standing effect and impact what President Trump has said today. Because according to him, this is a short-term increase and it has been done for the good of the world, for the good of the people. But what he has been saying, in the long run, exactly when it comes to the complete elimination of nuclear disarmament seems to be one of the goals there. But he has been talking about why the Iranian regime has launched deranged terror attacks against commercial oil tankers in neighboring countries on the Strait of Hormuz. And President Trump now says it is not our responsibility. Let's listen in.
They made mistakes, and I am correcting them. My first preference was always the path of diplomacy, yet the regime continued their relentless quest for nuclear weapons and rejected every attempt at an agreement. For this reason, in June, I ordered a strike on Iran's key nuclear facilities, an Operation Midnight Hammer. Nobody's ever seen anything like it. Those beautiful B-2 bombers performed magnificently. We totally obliterated those nuclear sites. The regime then sought to rebuild their nuclear program at a totally different location, making clear they had no intention of abandoning their pursuit of nuclear weapons. They were also rapidly building a vast stockpile of conventional ballistic missiles and would soon have had missiles that could reach the American homeland, Europe, and virtually any other place on Earth. Iran's strategy was so obvious. They wanted to produce as many missiles as possible, and they did, with the longest range possible, and they had some weapons that nobody believed they had. We just learned that out. We took them out. We took them all out so that no one would really dare stop them. And their race for a nuclear bomb, a nuclear weapon like nobody's ever seen before. They were right at the doorstep. For years, everyone has said that Iran cannot have nuclear weapons, but in the end, those are just words if you're not willing to take action when the time comes. As I stated in my announcement of Operation Epic Fury, our objectives are very simple and clear. We are systematically dismantling the regime's ability to threaten America or project power outside of their borders. That means eliminating Iran's Navy, which is now absolutely destroyed, hurting their Air Force and their missile program at levels never seen before, and annihilating their defense industrial base. We've done all of it. Their Navy is gone. Their Air Force is gone. Their missiles are just about used up or beaten. Taken together, these actions will cripple Iran militarily, crush their ability to support terrorist proxies, and deny them the ability to build a nuclear bomb. Our armed forces have been extraordinary. There's never been anything like it militarily. Everyone is talking about it, and tonight I'm pleased to say that these core strategic objectives are nearing completion.
Utkarsh sir, what is your understanding? What happens after 2 to 3 weeks?
President Trump here is in his address, what he is saying is actually that they have checked the power projection aspiration of Iran. So here he is giving a hint towards the regional stability and the concerns of the Gulf states. And it is with a pinch of salt you can say is true that the way Iran has hammered the Gulf countries in this war is phenomenal. So this is the concern the Gulf states have, but what will be the security apparatus after this war, he has not told. It is a very strange kind of conflict we are seeing here, Ramita, because after 2 to 3 weeks, will there be a peace plan? Will America, Israel and US, Iran would sit across the table and sign a draft? Would there be lifting of sanctions, UN sanctions, which were imposed on Iran in 2025? Will not be there. So Iran continues to live under the sanctions. And whenever America or Israel think that it is building missiles or fissile material, you come and revisit and bomb them. This is no way of, there is no arrangement of security.
Yes.
Because we are leaving, it is open-ended, and you leaving Iran as a closed country. This is something wrong which should be understood by everybody.
Well, was the initial and the only objective was oil domination? What happened in Venezuela? It's the same that he wanted to be reciprocated, however, in Iran, but Iran has been hitting back. Because we'll play out exactly what he has been saying. As I said, markets run on statements and sentiments, and mainly what President Trump has been saying has left a lot of volatility in the markets as well. Now, this seems to be the consequence, because as far as the escalation is now concerned, President Trump has also signaled that the oil infrastructure could be the next big target. He says that previously, the U.S. military has refrained from targeting the power plants and the energy and oil infrastructure. But this is a decision that he is likely to reconsider if Iran does not agree to their terms and conditions. I think we can already guess what Iran's response to this threat from the United States from President Trump would be. But just let's listen into what he has said.
If there is no deal, we are going to hit each and every one of their electric generating plants very hard and probably simultaneously. We have not hit their oil, even though that's the easiest target of all, because it would not give them even a small chance of survival or rebuilding. But we could hit it, and it would be gone, and there's not a thing they could do about it. They have no anti-aircraft equipment. Their radar is 100% annihilated. We are unstoppable as a military force. The nuclear sites that we obliterated with the B-2 bombers have been hit so hard that it would take months to get near the nuclear dust, and we have it under intense satellite surveillance and control. If we see them make a move, even a move for it, we'll hit them with missiles very hard again. We have all the cards, they have none. It's very important.
Well, Sierra, is there an exit plan after all? I mean, what do we expect? As far as Operation Epic Fury is concerned, President Trump says that largely, militarily at least, the objectives have been achieved. But you had jointly launched these strikes with Israel. However, Israel doesn't want this war to end. In fact, it wants the U.S. support and help to actually, even when it comes to the destruction of power plants and critical electric facilities is also concerned, Israel does not want the war to stop.
Well, in terms of an exit plan, I think President Trump discussed, that we're going to see the increased op tempo for the next 2 to 3 weeks. And I have no reason to believe that timeline would be untrue. And what happens after that, it's really up to so many things. One of the things it's up to is whether...
No, Sierra, apologies for interrupting, because 2 to 3 weeks is a vague, timeline. Because previously he had, as far as hitting Iranian oil and energy infrastructure, he had given them a 5-day deadline, then increased that to the 6th of April. Then now this address to the nation has come in between. And now he's giving 2 to 3 weeks. It doesn't, really outline if United States of America does have an exit plan.
Well, okay. Well, the first thing I'm going to say is that the rest of the world who uses the oil in the Strait of Hormuz, which is not the U.S., has shown very little interest in the Strait of Hormuz at all. So I think that is something that is frankly very surprising. And I can't say whether the Trump administration may have predicted that or not, but it seems quite shocking. So I think that affects the exit plan, whether or not these people are going to show an interest in their own energy.
But why shocking? They were neither consulted nor asked, to be a part of this war. This is something that they are bearing the brunt, along with the other countries who are pretty far from the Strait of Hormuz, but have a direct line as far as their energy infrastructure is concerned. They're dependent on it. So what is their fault?
Well, they, as you said, they are dependent on the energy that goes to the Strait of Hormuz. The United States has taken out, as President Trump said, the radars, the air launchers, everything that would be a danger to them. And this is the perfect time for them to come in and defend their own energy routes. And so it's just kind of surprising that they don't have an interest in doing that. In terms of the rest of the exit plan, and, as you said, Israel's involved here as well. I think that Israel, what their piece has been militarily has been to put pressure on the regime. The United States has been focused on eliminating threats, missiles, military objectives. Israel's been putting pressure on the regime, and those two things work in tandem. And so we are seeing right now these negotiations that
but Israel has been fighting this war on multiple fronts. It is not just Iran, but against the Iranian proxies as well, to which one of those demands that Iran had also sought when it comes to seeking for a possible ceasefire or dialogue was protection for the Iranian proxies as well. But as I said, markets run on statements and sentiments, and this is the immediate impact that what we are looking at. Let's put out a breaking update. Oil prices have now gone up. President Trump's threat to hit Iran extremely hard, bringing it back to Stone Age. And this is the impact. Brent future when prices goes up 4% to exceed $105 per barrel. Well, that seems to be the current scenario, what we are looking at, Pathikrit. I mean, we've seen those days as well when oil prices touch nearly $120 per barrel, and this is going to have a cascading effect.
Well, US was always, the power projection of US was always pivoted around being the net security guarantor of the world, and the world trusted the Americans. But if you see what has been happening for quite some time, is that there is a war that they unilaterally get into, and then there's a mess. There is no conclusion of the closure of the issue, and then it creates a void, and the problem can persist. The same is the problem with East Europe, the Russia-Ukraine conflict, or in many other places, including the AFPAC region and now the Middle East. So what happens now is this: if the price of oil keeps on rising, one can say that, look, Strait of Hormuz is not where the Americans depend on. But when the price of oil keeps on rising because of the crisis in Strait of Hormuz, the Americans will not be spared from that either. They will also suffer. Secondly, the bigger issue is this, that every time the Americans get into a conflict, where is the consultation? Yes, there is no denial of the fact that the Iranian regime has been responsible for funding proxy terror organizations. And to that extent, most of the countries, including India, are very uncomfortable with that. Yes. I think the Israelis still have an ultimate objective to protect their own turf and to take care of what is happening over there and counter the Israel.
Because it is about their existence there, because this has been mentioned by President Trump. If Iran was armed, had a nuclear weapon, then the Middle East and Israel wouldn't have existed. We're going to head into a very, very short break. The coverage continues on the other side. And of course, when it comes to the impact on the markets is something that we're going to see when the markets open up in a short while from now.